You may be in a position where you've just finished your degree and you wanted to get into a job really, really badly, or you might be thinking of a career change. You want something a bit more meaningful where you can actually add value to someone's life. I'm going to show you some of the tips. So this is part 3 to my video series of how to apply to be a probation officer. And I'm going to give you real life examples of what I actually do in my job as a probation officer. If you haven't already seen, I will be linking part 1 and part 2 up above. First one was communicating and influencing. Second one, part 2, was delivering at pace. And today's video is making effective decisions. I'm going to say that old YouTube thing now. If you do like my videos, leave a comment. It'll be great to hear from you. Please share this video if you're finding it really useful. Subscribe and like. Let's get into it. Whether or not you are applying for the probation officer or you're about to apply, you may have already seen the criteria for what they're going to ask you. They are based on the civil service behaviour competency and behaviour profiles, success profiles. I will leave a link to that here because you can actually access that yourself. So first tip is actually get access to that. It will normally be attached to the job description anyway. Why do they do this? Well, they didn't always do this, but now that the probation service is part of the civil service, it makes the recruitment process fair and they can score people based on the same system. Making effective decisions. In my job, we are constantly faced with having to make effective decisions. I will give you a couple of examples so then you can hear me talking about it and kind of put it into your own way. So you've got an understanding of what a probation officer actually does. I'm working with an individual and they have not attended their probation appointment. I need to make an effective decision about what action to take next. Here is my kind of thought process, what I go through. So has that person missed appointments before? What was their excuses before? Has that person got other things going on that I know about in their life that may make their life a little bit more chaotic? Is their life more chaotic than usual? That may explain why they've missed. Have they actually made contact beforehand? So have they rung me beforehand or have they just not made any contact? Is this person constantly missing appointments? Is this person on a probation license or a probation order? So as you can see, there's quite a lot of things that you need to think about. You don't just make a snap decision if they miss their appointment. The next step is deciding what to do with that. So a probation officer needs to decide whether we're going to give a warning. So a warning can be a verbal warning or a written warning, which does stay on their file and contributes to potentially they could be in breach of their order or in breach of their license conditions. So it is a big deal for the person we're working with. So that's why you really need to be clear in your decision making. So say, for example, this person has missed 2 appointments and sometimes we can make appointments acceptable. So like I've said just before, if we know there's something going on in their life, we know they've got work or something, unexpected came up or they're ill. Yes, we have professional judgment to be able to say, you know what, okay, we know your situation, I won't give you a warning. But sometimes it happens repeatedly, they don't make contact, and you need to kind of maintain that boundaries and enforce the rules. Yes, you do as a probation officer have to enforce rules, but normally it's not hard and fast. As you know, I've made an effective decision based on that individual circumstances, based on that person's situation, based on their previous, engagement, we call it, how well they've been coming in. Is this unusual for them? Is it normal? Is it repetitive? All of that. Let's get into another example then. So making an effective decision might be someone that you're working with has come back late from the approved premises to the probation hostel. You need to make a decision. Oh, and they've failed their alcohol test. So they've come back late and they've failed that alcohol test. You need to make a decision on what to do. So they are technically in breach of their license condition because of the hostel rules. So you need to make an effective and quick decision on what to do. Let me just recap and break down. So I've told you the scenarios. So in the application form, they are looking for these key things. They want to know what information did you approach or obtain to reach your decision. Like I've said in the examples, it can be information from probation records, can be information from talking to the service user themselves, it can be information from other professionals, other reports, police, prison information. Just detail where you're getting that information from. A bit like when you're used to writing essays at uni, back it up. Where have you got that evidence from? How are you going to use information to reach your decision? They want to know how you evaluated the different information to arrive at your decision. Making a decision, again, very similar to writing essays, relies on you weighing up information. There will be pros and cons to both decisions. You know, take the decision of what to do with the service user that came back late from the hostel and failed the alcohol test. You are going to want to evaluate the information, weigh up, well, what happens if we do this? What is the outcome? But what happens if we do this or do that differently? So what happens if we would send him straight to prison? What would be the impact on him? What would be the impact on him finishing his license? You know, his progress so far, etc., etc. What would be the impact if we didn't send him to prison, but maybe gave him some extra alcohol appointments? So showing that you can understand the whole picture, and yes, you see pros and cons to both, but even though there may be cons, the pros outweigh the cons. You've got to show that. Likewise, what other options did you consider and why did you not go with these options? So it could be like the parole report that you're writing. It may be that you have considered someone being released, but you're thinking now is not the right time. He can then progress to open conditions, and you state your reasons why. Maybe it's less secure, maybe they need to build up some connections in the community, maybe they need to have experience of different jobs. Whatever it is, put that reason because it shows that you've reached your decision. They want to see that in your application. Next thing they're looking for is to know how your decision aligns with the wider organisation's objectives, priorities, all of that. And the reason they want to know this is because when you make a decision as a probation officer, you may have to make a decision that's in line with goals, but you may want to go against that. I'll give you an example. So you've got someone, like I said, in the hostel, and the policy and procedure might say after 3 missed appointments or 3 non-attendance or 3 missed drug tests, they are in breach and they need to go back to prison or go back to court. That is the policy. However, you have your professional judgment because you are the professional, you are the one that's worked with them, to be able to say, well, actually, I'm weighing up the evidence, I'm weighing up the impact, and I'm going to go against that. So that's what we mean by there. Also, in line with values of the organisation, obviously the organisation's values are to protect the public, consider the victims, prevent rehabilitation. So you need to ensure that you've covered that. Sometimes there's certain policies. So when I was there, we had this like probation instruction, which is a bit like a policy to consider alternatives to recall. So that came about because they were finding that so many prisoners were being returned back to prison. There was so many recalls. So in an effort to kind of prevent that, they put in an initiative alternative to recalls. So you as a probation officer will be showing that you have considered all the other alternatives before recalling someone to prison. So that's what I mean by in line with organisational policies, procedures, values, and all of that. Part of this question, they will want to know how you effectively communicated your decision. So like I mentioned in the examples, are you communicating that to your manager, to your other colleagues? Maybe if you're not going to be there that week, to someone else that can kind of follow that on. Are you doing that to the parole board? Are you doing it in writing or over email? Or are you having that conversation? Are you doing it in a meeting? Consider what means you are communicating that decision. Also, are you communicating that to the service user that you're working with? So wrap that all up into your question as well, into your answer. Also wrapped up in that is your justification. So everything that I've just mentioned about how you reached your conclusion to make your decision, that is your justification. Why did you choose one thing over the other? Ensure that you can explain that effectively to the correct person who you're wanting to tell that decision to. And then the final part of that is, what recommendation did you make from that decision? So going back to the first example of the person coming back late at the approved premises and failing their alcohol test, what was your decision in the end? Did you decide to recall him to prison? Did you decide to give him a warning letter? Did you decide to add on alcohol appointments? Same with the parole board example I gave. Was your decision for him to come out of prison? Was your decision for him to go to less secure settings? Don't forget to put your actual recommendation for your decision in there. I'm really enjoying reading all your feedback in the comments, so keep that coming. Some of you have messaged me on Instagram for help and advice. Don't forget, you can register for the pre-probation programme. I will leave all the details after this as usual, and see you next time.